Here's something I want you to sit with for a second. The average American couple spends around $36,000 on their wedding day. $36,000. That's 2,200 on flowers alone, flowers that will be that in a week. Couples spend more on their napkin folds than most people earn in a month. They will visit 12 venues, taste test 4 caterers, agonize over whatever the centerpieces should be, ivory or cream. And then they spend almost nothing, sometimes literally nothing, preparing for the actual marriage. Not the wedding, the marriage. The 20, 30, 40 years that's come after. The flowers die and the napkins get thrown away, and the venue is just a building someone else is getting married in next Saturday. If you already watching this video, you're already different. You already know that what comes after the wedding matters. You're already asking the right question. How do we actually prepare for this? So I'm not here to guilt anyone. I'm here to give you what I give my clients. And after 15 years of working with couples, these are the conversations that change everything. The ones that couples who come to me 10 years into a marriage wish they would had before they ever walked on down the aisle. Let's get into it. I want to tell you about a couple. We'll call them Sophia and Daniel. They were genuinely wonderful together, funny, loving, same taste in movies, same group of friends. They planned a beautiful wedding, 9 months, every detail perfect. Sophia found her dress on the second try. Daniel cried when he saw her in it. Their first dance was flawless. And then, about 2 years in, they started sitting across from me in my office. Not because they had stopped loving each other. They hadn't. But because they never once talked about what they each expected from finances in a marriage. Sophia assumed they would merge everything in one account, one team. Daniel had grown up watching his parents fighting constantly about the money and had quietly, privately decided he would always keep his own financial independence. Neither of them knew the other had a different picture in their heads. They had also never talked about what conflict was supposed to look like. Sophia's family talked everything out loudly, immediately at the kitchen table. Daniel's family went quiet when things got tense. So when they had their first real disagreement, Sophia pushed to talk it through right now, and Daniel went silent and left the room. To Sophia, that felt like abandonment. To Daniel, Sophia's urgency felt like an attack. Same fight, different nervous systems. Neither of them wrong, but nobody had ever given them a map. That's what premarital counseling is, a map. And Sophia and Daniel are not unusual. They're just honest. I see versions of their story constantly. Let me give you a few numbers that I think will surprise you. Couples who go through premarital counseling have a roughly 30% lower divorce rate than couples who don't. That's not a small margin. That's almost a third. And it is not because counseling makes everything easy. It's because it surfaces the things that would have eventually surfaced anyway, but does it in a safe, structured environment before those things become crises. Think about it this way. If you knew that spending 8 hours, the median length of a premarital counseling program could meaningfully protect something you have committed your life to, wouldn't that be the most obvious investment you could make? Here's what the research also tells us. Couples who do premarital preparation report significantly higher marital satisfaction in the years that follow. Not just lower conflict, higher satisfaction, more connection, more feelings, understood. Because when you have had the hard conversations early, when you know your partner's money story and their family wounds and their communication style under stress, you stop being surprised by each other in the worst moments. You start being curious instead of reactive. One more thing worth naming: most couples who divorce don't divorce because they stop loving each other. They divorce because they never built a shared language for navigating the hard parts together. Premarital counseling is where you build that language before you need it the most. That starts with the topic that causes more conflict in marriages than almost anything else: money. Not because couples don't have enough, though that's real too, but because they have never compared their relationship with money. And everyone has one. The questions I ask couples here aren't about budgets, they're about beliefs. What did money mean in your family growing up? Was it a source of safety, or stress, or secrecy? Did your parents fight about it? Did anyone ever say, I can afford that, in a way that felt like shame? Those early experiences wire our entire emotional response to financial conversations, and we bring all of it into a marriage completely unconsciously. Then there's the practical side. Are you merging finances fully, partially, or keeping them separate? There's no universally right answer. Plenty of couples run beautifully with separate accounts and a shared one for bills. Plenty of others feel most like a team when everything is merged. What matters is that it's a choice you have both made together, not an assumption one of you has been carrying quietly. Sophia and Daniel never had this conversation. And the thing that finally cracked them open in my office wasn't the argument about a specific expense. It was realizing they had each been operating from a completely different set of rules, unspoken rules, about what marriage and money were supposed to look like. The other piece: debt. If one of you is carrying significant debt, student loans, credit cards, financial obligations to family, your partner deserves to know that before you are legally joined. Not as a deal breaker, as a conversation two people can handle anything together, either chosen to face it with open eyes. The ones who can't handle it are the ones who find out by surprise. Here's something I say to almost every couple I work with. It's not whatever you fight. Every couple fights. It is what you do during the fight and what you do after that determines wherever a conflict brings you closer or chips something away. Couples have widely different conflict styles, and most of them are directly inherited from the families they grew up in. Some families process everything out loud, immediately, sometimes loudly. Others went to quiet and let things simmer. Some families use humor to deflect. Others believed that if you brought something up, you were being dramatic. None of this is inherently wrong. But when two different conflict styles collide, especially under stress, especially in early years of marriage, they can feel like incompatibility, when they are really just two people who learn different languages. The question I ask couples is this: when you are upset, what do you actually need in the moment? Not what should you need, what do you actually need? Some people need to talk it through right now. Some people need 20 minutes to walk around the block before they can have a productive conversation. Some need to hear, I love you, before they can engage with the actual issue. And here's the beautiful thing about asking this question before marriage. You can actually design how conflict works between you. You can say, when things get heated, I might need to take a break. That doesn't mean I'm shutting you out. That means I am trying to come back better. That sentence, said once in a premarital session, has saved couples from years of the same misread. The other piece is repair. After a fight, how do you come back? In my experience, this is the most underrated skill in marriage. Couples who repair well, who can say, I'm sorry I said it like that, or I got scared and I took it out on you. Those couples can survive an enormous amount of conflict because the fight doesn't define the relationship, the return does. Let me ask you something. Have you and your partner explicitly talked about wherever you want children? Not assumed, talked. Have you talked about when? What happens if one of you changes your mind? What happens if it's not easy, if fertility becomes part of your story? These questions are uncomfortable, which is exactly why so many couples don't have them. And I understand that, but here's what I have watched happen in my office. Two people who love each other deeply, who built a life together, sitting across from me in real pain because they discovered 5 years into a marriage that they wanted fundamentally different things, and neither of them had left safe enough to say it out loud earlier. The kids' conversation is really three conversations. Do we want them? When? And how will parent? Because two people can both say yes to kids and have completely different visions of what that looks like. Who stays home, if anyone, how much childcare, screen time rules, discipline. These aren't small things. They become the texture of daily life for 18 plus years. And then there's the in-law conversation, which is really a question about loyalty and priority. When you get married, you're creating a new, primarily family unit. That's you and your partner. I'm not saying cut off your families. Strong marriages are often supported by strong extended families. But when a partner's opinion starts to override a partner's need, or when one partner feels like they're always coming second to the in-laws, that's a wound that compounds over time. The couples who navigate this best are the ones who have said out loud early, we are each other's team. That doesn't mean our families don't matter. It means we face our families together. Here's a question that sounds simple but really is. What does a normal week look like in the family you are imagining together? Not the vacation version, not the Instagram, the Tuesday version. Who is cooking? Who is handling the finances? Who makes the doctor appointments? Who picks up when one of you has a terrible week? What happens to one person's career if the other gets an opportunity in another city? Most couples answer this question implicitly. They just drift into patterns, usually based on what their parents did or who is more available in a given moment. And that works until it doesn't. Until one person feels like they're carrying more than their share and doesn't know how to say it. This isn't about assigning chores before marriage. It's about being honest about what you each value, what you each need, and what you are each willing to flex on before life forces those questions under pressure. Sophia and Daniel actually got this part right. They would talk about careers, about where they wanted to live. That wasn't the part that brought them to my office. which is a good reminder. Premarital counseling isn't about getting everything figured out. It's about knowing each other well enough that when something unexpected comes up, and it will, you face it as partners rather than adversaries. Now, I want to talk about intimacy for a minute, and I mean that in the broadest sense. Not just physical closeness, but emotional closeness, the feeling of being truly known by someone. Because here's what I've noticed in 15 years of sitting with couples. The complaint underneath almost every presenting problem is some version of, I don't feel like they really see me, not they did this specific thing, not we fight about this specific issue. Underneath it, usually, I feel invisible to the person who is supposed to know me best. So before marriage, I always ask couples, how do you like to receive love? Know how do you give it? How do you receive it? Because often, without even realizing it, we love people the way we want to be loved ourselves. And that doesn't always land the way we intended. One partner might feel most loved through physical affection. A hand on the back, in passing, sitting close on the couch. Another might feel most loved through someone doing something for them without being asked. Filling the car up with gas, making dinner on a hard day, handling something they were dreading. If each partner is giving the love they would want to receive, and it is a different language, both people can end up feeling vaguely unloved, even though they both are trying. The physical side of intimacy matters too, and premarital counseling is one of the few spaces where couples can talk about expectation and needs in that area with a neutral guide in the room. Differences in desire are incredibly common and are not a sign something is wrong, but they do benefit enormously from having a shared language and a comfortable way to talk about it, especially before marriage raises the stakes. I want to end with something I say to almost every couple that walks into my office for their first premarital session. Coming here does not mean something is wrong with your relationship. It means you take it seriously enough to prepare for it. You wouldn't buy a house without an inspection, right? You wouldn't start a business without a plan. And a marriage, a real, long, living, breathing, evolving marriage, deserves at least as much intentionality as a lease agreement. You have already done something most couples don't do just by watching this. You are thinking about the marriage, not just the wedding. You are asking the questions that matter. The flowers will die, the napkins will be thrown away, venue will host 100 other couples. What you build together, the language you develop, the patterns you set early, the trust you deepen, that's what lasts. Sophia and Daniel, by the way, they're still together. A lot of work, a lot of honest conversations they probably should have had years earlier, but they got there. And what they both said to me near the end of our work together has stayed with me. We wish someone had told us to do this before the wedding. Consider this me telling you. If you found this helpful, drop a question in the comments. What's the conversation you and your partner keep putting off? Because chances are that's exactly where the work is. Subscribe for more. I will see you in the next one.